Welcome to Beyond the Veil, the channel that unveils the mysteries hidden between myth, history, and legend. Here, we explore what lies behind the stories that have passed through the centuries, because every myth has a grain of truth. If you too are fascinated by the unknown, subscribe and get ready to look beyond the veil of reality. They are beautiful, agile, immortal. But not all elves live in the light. Some dwell in the shadows, and in the silence of the deep they watch us. Dark elves are among the most fascinating and feared creatures in fantasy. But where do they come from? Why do they unsettle us so deeply? And most importantly, what do they reveal about us? Their origins aren't modern nor born from a tabletop game. They trace back to one of Europe's oldest and most mysterious mythologies, Norse mythology. In the Prose Edda, the elven world is divided into two races: the Svartálfar, light elves, radiant beings who live in Alfheim, and the Dark Dark Elves, dwellers of the underworld, with dark skin, restless spirits, connected to death and secret magic. Some called them Svartálfar, Black Elves, but here's where it gets strange. In certain texts, these Dark Elves are confused or merged with dwarves, the divine blacksmiths who live beneath the earth and wield fire. A mythical paradox: Dark Elves are also creators of power. This ambiguity between life and death, beauty and fear, light and darkness, is their true essence. And it's what made them eternal in modern fantasy. In the world of Dungeons and Dragons, they became the infamous Drow, elves with skin black as obsidian, red or violet eyes, masters of deadly spells and silent betrayal. They live in the Underdark, a vast underground world of cyclopean cities, arcane webs, and dark cults. They worship Lolth, the Spider Queen, a cruel, deceitful goddess who rules through fear and manipulation. But pop culture didn't trap them in the role of villain. Over time, Dark Elves have taken on new identities. In Warhammer, they are fallen nobles, obsessed with vengeance. In the Elder Scrolls, as the Dunmer, they are a proud, spiritual people, marked by a past of fire and blood. And then there is Drizzt Do'Urden, perhaps the most famous Dark Elf in fantasy literature. A warrior who defies his fate, rejects the cruelty of his kin, and searches for another path. Today, Dark Elves are no longer just symbols of evil. They are symbols of doubt, of ambiguity, of the other that fascinates and unsettles. Creatures that force us to ask, who decides what is dark and what is worthy of light? Beneath the mountains, beyond forgotten tunnels and lightless lakes, lie cities built from black stone, the bones of ancient beasts, and towers woven with arcane webs. Here dwells the heart of elven darkness, a civilization as ruthless as it is captivating, the society of the Dark Elves. Contrary to popular belief, the world of the Drow, or Dark Elves, is not chaotic. On the contrary, it is rigidly structured, matriarchal, pyramidal, obsessively hierarchical. At the top are the great houses, noble families led by powerful matrons, priestesses of the spider goddess, Lolth. Power is not just a right, it is a duty to be protected with blood, and each family lives in a constant cold war with the others, a world of silent assassinations, political intrigue, and alliances ready to shatter with a single sideways glance. In the underground cities, like the infamous Menzoberranzan, nothing is left to chance. Every street, every passage, every temple is watched by eyes and magic. Arcane towers rise like thorns in the darkness. Markets sell poisons, forbidden enchantments, and slaves captured from the surface. But there's a detail few notice. Despite the atmosphere of terror, Drow society works. It has order, discipline, and a refined culture built on cruelty. There are magical academies, military schools, libraries filled with dark tomes. And those who survive emerge strong, cunning, dangerous, because here, you don't learn to coexist, you learn to dominate. Dark Elves are not just assassins. They are poets of vengeance, architects of control, philosophers of fear. And yet, even among them, there is doubt. There are individuals, like Drist, who question their world, who feel an inner voice breaking through the chorus of blind faith. And that makes their culture even more fascinating, because even in the deepest darkness, an idea of light can be born. If light elves worship nature, harmony, and wisdom, dark elves worship something entirely different. Their spirituality does not comfort, it controls, it does not free, it subjugates. At the heart of dark elven faith, particularly among the Drow, is Lolth, the spider goddess. A cruel, jealous, beautiful, and merciless deity. It was she who led the Dark Elves' fall. It was she who guided them into the abyss. And since then, every whispered prayer in the Underdark is an act of terror masquerading as devotion. Lolth does not love her followers. She tests them. She demands sacrifice. She requires betrayal. Those who obey with blind loyalty are rewarded, perhaps. Those who doubt are destroyed. Her iconography is disturbing. An elven woman whose lower body has transformed into a massive black spider. Her temples are living webs, built from bone stone and blood magic. Her priests, almost exclusively women, rule Drow society with a poisoned iron fist. But Lolth is not the only deity. There are rival cults, minor gods, dark spirits that whisper in dreams. Some dark elves follow Veyron, the god of theft, rebellion, and elven masculinity. Others revere Ilistrae, the goddess of redemption, who dances naked in the moonlight and dreams of a world where Drow may walk in the light once more. These religious divisions breed invisible tensions, ideological wars, whispers in the shadows, because ultimately the faith of the Dark Elves is a reflection of their soul, tormented, divided, powerful, always teetering between fanaticism and rebellion. In their world, to believe is to obey, and those who no longer believe are already dead. Dark Elves do not know peace. Their history is written in daggers, curses, and broken oaths. The first war, the oldest, most mythical one, was not against an external enemy. It was a war among brothers, elf against elf, light against shadow. According to legend, it was the fall of the Dark Elves that sealed their fate. Outcasts from the surface, hunted by their own kin, accused of heresy, of forbidden magic, of arrogance, or perhaps they were simply inconvenient, too ambitious, too different. Forced to take refuge underground, the Dark Elves did not bow. They vowed vengeance. And from that moment on, every generation would learn to hate the light, to hate those who had cast them out. Their wars are legendary. Battles in the deep, sudden raids on the surface, ambushes in the endless tunnels of the Underdark. They do not fight to conquer. They fight to wound, to remind the world that they exist and that they do not forget. But the Drow's greatest weapon is not the blade, it is betrayal. In their culture, trust is weakness. Every alliance is temporary, every brother a potential rival. Families fall to whispers. Daughters stab mothers to ascend. Priests poison followers to climb the altar. And yet, in this abyss of violence, glory is born. There are names that echo through the tunnels like war songs. Zebane Bainri, the immortal matron. Rild Argith, master of the twin blades. Drist do Urden, the outcast, the dark hero who dared to defy his own blood. In them shines the true essence of the Dark Elves, a cursed race, yes, but also unbreakable. A civilization that turned hatred into survival, pain into power, night into a temple. And you, viewer, can you truly hate them? Or do you admire them? They were once just enemies, bosses to defeat, evil races to wipe out in the depths of dungeons. But today something has changed. Dark Elves are no longer mere monsters. They've become protagonists, tragic heroes, antagonists who resemble us more than we'd like to admit. The first to change everything was Drizzt Do'Urden. Created by R.A. Salvatore in the Forgotten Realms novels, Drizzt is a drow who rejects the cruelty of his people. He runs, he fights, he loves, and he forces us to see dark elves not as demons, but as complex beings, capable of choice, capable of pain. And the audience loved him, because Drizzt isn't perfect. He's tormented. He's different in a world that despises difference. And that makes him human, more human than many humans. But Drizzt was only the beginning. In video games, series, and role-playing games, Dark Elves have come to life as playable races, ambiguous protagonists, reluctant guides. In Dragon Age, the Dalish and City Elves reflect the same tension between pride and oppression. In the Elder Scrolls, the Dunmer aren't evil. They're proud, spiritual, marked by a past of suffering and a precarious present. Even in the most mainstream fantasy, like World of Warcraft, the Void Elves and Blood Elves have absorbed the aesthetics and melancholy of the Dark Elf. Creatures touched by corruption, but not defined by it. This transformation speaks volumes. Today, the Dark Elf is the symbol of those judged solely by appearance. The outcast, the refugee, the survivor. They embody the question that has haunted us forever. Who decides who is the villain and who is the hero? Perhaps their darkness is nothing more than our shadow reflected. Dark Elves are not just fantasy creatures. They are symbols. They represent what is pushed out of the light. What society rejects, what history distorts, what conscience fears. They are the others. The enemy told through the voice of the victors, but also the free spirit that chooses its own path, in the dark. Yes, there is vengeance in them, but also memory. There is hatred, but also a yearning for redemption. And when we look at their black cities, their forbidden cults, their silent wars, we cannot avoid the question, do we fear them or envy them? Because perhaps deep inside each of us there lives a dark elf, a fragment that rejects false light, that whispers in the shadows, and that knows truth is not always black or white, but made of deep shades, like the night. And now, tell me, have you ever read about or encountered a dark elf that left a mark on you? A character, a game, a story that changed your perspective? Share it in the comments. I want to hear your visions. And if this journey made you see fantasy with new eyes, subscribe to Beyond the Veil, because legends are not made only of light, but of shadows that know how to speak.